Hi everybody, it's Adam from LUCIDPIXUL, and today I want to talk to you about getting real. And I don't mean that in an insulting fashion, of course. I mean getting real about your career, getting real about your talent, getting real about your future, getting real about everything, both technical and psychological, that has to do with being a professional artist. Being a professional at all, okay? But of course, I speak on behalf of artists because that's what I do for a living. And being a teacher as well. Okay, I've had a chance to teach hundreds of students. Okay, both in in brick and mortar schools and with my online mentorship as well. And having had my own ups and downs in my own career, I had to face a lot of demons. About myself. Had to face a lot of demons about my competence. Had to face a lot of demons about all kinds of things. I mean, I can't remember because I've been doing this for so many years, right? As many of you have as well. And one of the things that I found really made a big, huge difference for me. It was tough. I'm not going to kid you. It was tough. But one of the things that made a huge difference for me was my ability to finally sit down and be honest about myself. Okay? And this isn't only something that transformed my own perception, my own perspective of my own career and helped me succeed and helped get me where I wanted to get. But I find this is something that affects many other artists. Okay, in fact, I'd say probably the majority of them. Now, what I mean by this is, if we were to sit down, okay, one-on-one, and I was to ask you, what's your biggest fear? Okay, or if you ask the generic question online in some podcast or something like that, what's your biggest fear as an artist? Okay, what a lot of the very common answer you might get is fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of this, fear of that. Okay, when in fact I don't think that's the biggest fear. I don't think that's the thing that really holds us back as artists. And I've seen some incredibly talented artists. I mean, wow. Okay, artists that can really they have incredible technical skill, they have incredible artistic skill, they have incredible range of skills as well, because maybe they've been doing it for a very long time, and this is something that applies equally to people that are first starting out in their career as well as people that have been in the industry for 30-40 years, because remember, I've had students of all different ages, right? And I'm no spring chicken myself. I'm hitting 40 soon, right? So I've had a chance to talk to a lot of people about this kind of stuff. You know what I think the major fear, the number one fear for artists is? It's not the fear of failure. It's the fear of success. Okay? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if I was to sit you down and say, how would you feel if you produced the greatest work of art you've ever produced? What if that work of art was, by not only your standards, but by the standards of all your peers, top-notch professional quality work that's going to land you a great job? Okay, that's number one. Let me close my browser here so that I don't get any pop-ups. Okay, and then my second question to that is, you submit your portfolio and then you get the job. And I'm not just talking about any job. I'm talking about the job, okay? The one, your big dream job that you've wanted your entire life, okay? Now, for those who don't give it a lot of thought, you'd probably say, wow, I would be like, this would be the greatest thing in the world. Oh my God, I would be so tripped out. No, I want you to think about it more than that. I want you to think about yourself getting that email or getting that phone call and saying, hi, yeah, we saw your work and we think you're absolutely amazing. How would you like to come work for us? And would you be willing to start next week? Okay. And this is, I'm talking the top of your gold bar standard studio that you've been dreaming of getting. How would you feel? Okay. Well, I don't know about you, but I know if I was speaking honestly for myself, at least in my past, because I have had to face this question at a certain point in my life, I was overjoyed and I felt a great feeling of, holy shit, I got some recognition and I got some I got recognition for my work, and wow, I actually got the attention of a studio that I really respect. But how did I truly feel deep down inside? I felt absolutely terrified. terrified, terrified, terrified. Okay? The whole act of me accepting the job and walking in to that studio for my first day of work was terrifying, to the point where I actually had nightmares. For a couple of days before I went, I actually had nightmares about it. I remember the nightmare I had was walking into the studio, and I hadn't yet seen the studio. I didn't know what it looked like yet, because I actually applied remotely, right? And I moved to a different city, at least during the week. I found a place to stay. I did all of this within a week. Okay, so I had to find a place to stay. I had to get all my stuff together, all my belongings together. I had to organize how I was going to be, traveling back and forth between my home and this job every week. So there's a lot going on in that week, but I hadn't actually walked in and seen that studio yet. I had no idea what the people were like. I had no idea what the layout of the studio looked like. I hadn't been there. I did all of my interview was done over Skype. Okay. And I was, honest to God, scared to death. I was scared to death. And I had nightmares. I remember the nightmare I had was walking into that studio for the first day of work. But in my dream, it was this huge studio that had different buildings and different wings. And I was walking in, and I was trying to find my way to get there. And I remember sitting in this big lobby, and there was an elevator. It was kind of this big marble floor, almost looked like a train station. There was an elevator over there. And I went into the elevator, and I got off on the wrong floor. And the floor ended up being kind of like an unfinished floor. It was still in construction, and there was still like tarps and plastic and all that kind of stuff all over the place. But I thought that was the floor I had to get off. So I went in, and I'm walking through this construction zone, this floor in construction, and I get lost. And I don't know how to get out. So I find a staircase, an exit. So I walk down the staircase, and it sends me into some courtyard. And I'm walking around, and there's all these types of people. And at this point, a couple of, like, maybe half an hour, an hour has passed, and I'm already late for work. And it's my first day on the job. And I'm starting to ask people. I remember turning to somebody there and saying, "I'm sorry, I'm trying to find blah blah blah." And he says, "I'm sorry, I don't know where that person works. This is a big place. Do you have an idea?" Blah blah blah. And I said, "I don't know." And I realized I hadn't written it down. I just kind of just showed up without actually writing down any specific information. And the guy who worked there, who you could tell had been working there for a long time, was like, "Oh man, tough luck, bud. Well, good luck," And he kind of gave me a vote of encouragement. But I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, I'm screwing up my first day of work. Oh my God, I'm screwing it up," And I'm sitting there going, I've just walked into my dream job and I just screwed it up. And it was this horrible feeling that I got. Okay. And I woke up, in cold sweats, really feeling like I spent my whole life chasing after a dream, and then the moment of truth, and I screwed up. Okay. It really affected me. It was very difficult. Okay. It was a very difficult emotional experience for me. I had spent so many years of my life. Okay. Now this job that I got, it wasn't the first job. I'd had many jobs before that, and I was somewhat accustomed to starting new things, right? But it was still scary. But if I go back in my life, if I go back in my career, it was always kind of that experience. And in some of my jobs I did well. In other jobs I didn't do well, or I didn't live up to standard, and I got sacked. I had ups and downs, and I was reliving the downs when I had this experience as well. Furthermore, you can spend, your whole life learning how to draw, training, studying, improving, focusing, all of these different kinds of things. But it's not until you get that yes from a studio that that reality finally kicks in your face, and they say, "I'm going to be doing this for a living," right? It's not until somebody actually says, we like your work, Tricia. Come work for us." Okay? That you actually go, "Oh my God, I'm actually supposed to do this now for work. Now there's actually a demand for my work. Now I have to live up to a certain standard. And I'm not just working for myself anymore. I'm not just putting together my portfolio. I'm actually doing this on demand. I have to live up to a certain standard." And when all of those realities start kicking you in the face, I swear to God, that can send you off. You can have a freaking anxiety attack, And many people do have anxiety attacks. You go, "Oh my God, oh my God," And they're almost tempted to quit. People have actually, in many cases, even sabotaged their own careers, but because they couldn't handle the pressure of this sudden transition in their lifestyle. Change is stressful, even good change. Okay, you know, you could be. It's a perfect example is people who grow up living in some kind of squalor and poverty and everything like that, and then they win the lottery. Right? All of a sudden they win the lottery and they have access to buying, you know, a new car, a new mansion, a new this, a new that. They've just won $23 million. That experience can stress the shit out of people. It can scare people to the point where people can just give away their money. I can't take the change. It's too drastic for me. Okay? So one of the things that I recommend for you as a professional is to address that question, is to actually live through the experience, imagine and visualize the experience of actually getting that job, actually realizing that you're going to get paid to do the thing that you love most in the place that you admire most, because it's going to happen. It is going to happen. If you keep at it long enough, you're going to get better. You're naturally going to get better and better and better. But you have, when you're drawing, when you're producing your portfolio, when you're producing your artwork, you're not only physically and artistically preparing yourself to work in this great company, you're also psychologically preparing yourself to do it as well. And when you actually do get that call one day and you do get hired to work in this great studio doing exactly what you love, you're not only technically prepared for it, but you're psychologically prepared for it. And furthermore, when you actually walk into the studio, when you get hired, you've already tackled many very personal, hard-hitting questions about your own success as an artist, as a professional. So when you do work on your artwork, you're doing so with a lot more realistic focus on where this artwork's going to get you. Okay? You tackle certain things psychologically so that when you walk into a studio, you don't all of a sudden go, holy shit, I didn't ever actually expect to get a job. I wanted to get a job. I've been talking about getting a job, but now I've actually got the job. So it's the moment of truth, right? Now it's, you know, do or die type of situation, right? However, as much as I'm recommending that you do prepare yourself psychologically, actually imagine yourself getting that job working in this studio, producing the kind of work that you're looking at on the internet that you love so much, okay? And they're expecting you to do that as well. To realize and to come to terms with the fact that you're gonna screw up. You might very well get sacked. You might lose your job. Your boss might sit you down in a conference room and say, Adam, we really like you. We think you're a great guy, but, you know, I don't necessarily feel like you fit into the culture of this studio, you know? I don't, you know, we were looking for something, it didn't quite turn out the way we wanted to, or maybe the project was demanding of something that you weren't necessarily qualified, or maybe there was a change in the project and you were suited for it at the beginning, but now you're no longer suitable for it, so we found somebody else to fit that. You have to learn to come to terms with your own ego, okay? Because in my opinion, from my experiences in my life, be it personal, be it professional, whatever the case might be, my ego has been one of the okay, not so much anymore, but my ego was a great source of my own stress and struggle, okay? You know, you get rejected from somebody you love, you get cheated on by somebody you love, you get fired from a job that you love, you get treated badly by somebody that you care for, a friend or something like that, okay? Your kids who you've been super close with your whole life is growing up, you know, as being a parent of a child, and all of a sudden they become teenagers and you get rejected for the first time, you know, or you go to give them a hug and they say, you know, Dad, back off, come on, you know, and your heart breaks a little bit. That's your ego responding to that, okay? That's your ego being affected by the judgment of other people. Now, there's good judgment and there's bad judgment, right? There's judgment that's productive. It's honest. It's critique. This is a business. We're looking for a certain type of artwork. You didn't fulfill it. Maybe next time you will, but not here, right? And you lose that job. You lose that opportunity. You can interpret that and say, I'm a screw up. I'm useless. I'll never be good enough. I'll never get the job. That's your ego talking to you, right? Or you can say, okay, you know, confided that everything was done, you know, respectively. They didn't, they weren't punching their employees or bashing them or making them feel bad, because I have experienced that too, and a lot of people have too. There are bad employers that are douchebags, but in most cases they're not, right? Where they sit you down very, very friendly and they say, listen, you just you don't make the cut. Okay? You can look at that and let your ego call yourself all kinds of names. You can walk home with your head, your head in the ground, and sit there and start panicking about this and feeling bad about that, and and feeling like shit. Or you can say, okay, well, I didn't fit in. I didn't quite have the skills to fulfill this job, or at least there were certain skills that I was lacking. What skills was I missing? And you start to list out the things that were missing. And then you ask yourself, well, with that said, with all of the skills that I'm looking at, how much do I still care for this type of work? How will I feel as a professional knowing that I'm going to have to spend the next 50, 60 years doing this type of work to fit into that type of studio? And you might find out one of two things. You might say, okay, well, time to learn. Take a course, take a mentorship, learn online. Do it if you're somebody who, if it's just a few skills that you need to pick up, and it's nothing drastic, teach yourself. I need a bit of 3D, learn a bit of 3D. If you need to learn a bit of After Effects, learn a bit of After Effects. If your perspective sucks, brush up on your perspective. If your rendering still sucks a little bit, brush up on it, okay? This is your job, this is your passion. You're going to have to learn eventually, right? If you don't, you're not going to get where you want to get, right? So just do it. If it matters to you. If it doesn't matter and you're sitting there going, oh crap, I couldn't picture doing that for the rest of my life, then start to reevaluate the type of artwork that you'd like to work, the type of artwork you'd like to do, the type of industry you'd like to work in. Are you more of a video game person? Are you more of a film person? Are you more of a trading card game person? You start to really veer yourself in the direction that you're looking for. But take into account, this is professional work. Being a professional artist means you have to have those skills. You have to train those skills. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes focus. Okay? When you're developing those skills, develop them towards the exact type of direction that you're trying to get with your career. But while you're doing that, you're also asking yourself that hard-hitting question. At the same time, asking yourself, if I get hired for that job, how much confidence will I have as an artist that I'll be able to fulfill that job successfully and without burning myself out with stress? Am I ready yet? Am I psychologically and technically and artistically ready for that job? Okay? And if you can honestly answer, not yet, then still aim in that direction, but be a little bit more humble about where you are at that particular point. If it's your dream, you're going to get there. But the people who make it to those big, hard-hitting jobs up there, okay, are the ones who've been rejected 1,000 times, who've had to deal, face their own ego 1,000,000 times. They've had to be told they're good and bad. They've had to improve certain things. They've had to be honest with themselves about their skills. They've been through what you're going through, okay? So they're not just better people with better skills. No, they just had a chance to experience a lot of that. They've had to develop a little sense of humility before getting to that spot that they want to get to, okay? And the sooner you come to terms with that, the sooner you're going to find yourself in a very confident and stable position artistically and career-wise, okay? But even the best lose their jobs. Look at DreamWorks. DreamWorks laid off hundreds of their employees. Budget cuts, poor economy, shit happens, right? So they lose their jobs. Would those guys, those men and women at DreamWorks that got sacked, did they get sacked because they sucked? No, they got sacked because of budget cuts, and that happens. It's happened to me too. I had a great job. I had a great rapport with my whole team, with my boss, with everything like that. It was a great company. They're still best friends to this day, people I love and admire from the top of my heart. But they just couldn't afford to keep things going, so I got sacked. So did the rest of my team. Okay? That was a little stressful financially, but it didn't hit my ego, right? Because it wasn't my fault. It was an external force. But had I gotten sacked because I wasn't good enough, I wouldn't do now what I would do back then and sit there and just feel like a complete loser. Because I'm not a loser. And what happened in the end was it just strengthened my conviction to keep going and to focus more. Be more direct about the type of work that I'm trying to get. Okay? And as you know, as I've explained in the past, my career has taken several detours. And those detours weren't just professional choices. those detours were also a result of psychological difficulties, of personal turmoil, of lack of confidence, of insecurity about myself as an artist, right? Thinking to myself, well, I'm never going to be a good enough animator, so I'll get into 3D. And then I got into 3D, and I felt I didn't fit into the 3D industry because my heart wasn't there the way it was for all these other guys that would show up with all these cool new tools and tricks in 3D, right? I was kind of, it doesn't really do it for me. I mean, I love seeing you do it, but that's not me. And that was the kind of team I was around. And I had to keep veering myself back and forth until I found a niche where I really felt the best of me came out. And my passion was involved. It was my life history. It was the books I grew up reading. It was the films I grew up watching. That kind of stuff, right? So my piece of advice to you is visualize getting that job. Visualize that on Monday, this coming Monday, or the next Monday following when you watch this video, you're starting a new job, a really, really good one that you should be very excited about. And visualize walking into that studio, and visualize meeting all of your colleagues and familiarizing yourself with the team, and visualize starting to get to know the database and how to save your work, and visualize your boss turning to you and saying, here's your first job. And ask yourself just how ready you are for that psychologically. Okay? In the end, everything's going to be just fine. And if you get rejected, everything is still going to be just fine. And if you get sacked, it's still going to be fine. Okay? If this industry, if this job, if this type of work is something that you truly, truly love, then that means that you're not only willing to be there to enjoy the successes of it, but you're willing to push it through when you fail too. Just like any relationship in the world, right? A successful relationship doesn't only succeed when things are going well. It also succeeds when things aren't going well, right? Editing. I wanted to make an important announcement, a little quick announcement. As you may or may not know, I have a private online mentorship called LUCIDPIXUL. And this has been going on for about 9 months. The community is growing, students from all around the world, so it's very exciting stuff. However, with this increased demand for the mentorship has come a bit of a waiting list for some of the students or some artists that wanted to enroll themselves. And that could very easily become a logistic nightmare at a certain point when you're trying to manage that. So I had to very carefully consider a few little minor changes to the mentorship that had little to no impact on the integrity of the course, but allow for me to take on more students at a time. As it stood up until recently, I've been able to take up to 10 students per week. Now remember, this is private. So that means that what's the importance of this course is that it's one-on-one. Okay, so all of the time that I spend with each artist is one-on-one, and it's a substantial amount of time where every student has a chance to really go over the work and go over assignments and go over personal work and be able to improve their personal skill, find their personal style, and really develop those technical skills as well, right? So this damages none of that, but allows me to take up to 15 students at one particular time, okay? So it's very exciting, and what this hopefully will do, at least for now, is either relieve or completely remove the waiting list altogether, okay? So that if you're interested in starting, you can start right away and you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait a month or two to be able to start the course, all right? So if you want any information on that, you can check the link in the description below, or you can go to adamduff.com. And in the mentorship section, you can click on facts. So you can get all the information that you're looking for there. Any information you're interested in, you can go and check it out there. Or of course, you can get in touch with me directly, and I'll leave that information in the description as well. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed my talk today. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care.